In the year 2089, the world had changed in ways no one could have imagined a century earlier. Technology had grown faster than people's ability to control it, and space had become more than a mystery. It had become a frontier. Humans had sent probes, colonies, and even mining teams to faraway worlds. Yet, for all their progress, there was one thing they had never found: proof that they were not alone. That changed one cold night in the deserts of Chile. Far away from any city, on top of a dry plateau, stood the Karo Amaru Observatory, one of Earth's most advanced listening stations. It was built to catch the faintest signals from the stars: radio waves, pulses, anything that might suggest life beyond Earth. Most nights were quiet, filled only with the hum of machines and the soft clicking of data recorders. But on that night, a strange pattern appeared on the screen of technician Javier Morales. At first he thought it was interference, maybe from a solar flare or a satellite. Yet the rhythm of the pulses was too perfect, too deliberate. It repeated every 11 seconds, rising and falling like a heartbeat. Javier called his supervisor, who quickly realized this was not a random cosmic noise. The data was sent to a linguistics research team in Geneva. Among them was Dr. Maria Esteban, a woman known for her gift of hearing patterns where others heard chaos. For 3 days she listened, analyzed, and compared. Then she whispered something that would change history. "It's a distress call." The signal came from the direction of Kepler 442b, a planet discovered long ago but thought to be lifeless, a rocky world with an atmosphere too thin for humans. Yet here was a cry for help coming from that exact place, traveling across light years to reach Earth. Scientists were stunned. If someone or something was calling for help, it meant intelligence. It meant life. News of the discovery spread quickly, though most of it was kept secret from the public at first. Only world leaders and top scientists knew what was happening. Meetings were held in secure chambers where generals, engineers, and diplomats argued for hours. Should they respond? Should they ignore it? Some said it could be a trap or a leftover signal from an extinct civilization. Others, including Dr. Esteban, believed ignoring it would be a betrayal of everything humanity stood for. Finally, the United Nations Space Directorate gave its approval. Earth would answer the call. The mission was named Project Archangel, a symbol of hope and courage. It would not just be a rescue mission, but a chance to prove that humans, once seen as destroyers of their own world, could become saviors in another. Selecting the crew was not easy. The mission required people who could survive anything: radiation storms, alien environments, long isolation, and even death itself. That was when they turned to a special group known as the Deathworlders. The name had started as a joke among other spacefaring species humanity had met. Humans came from what many called a death world, a planet filled with diseases, predators, earthquakes, and violent weather. Yet they thrived. Where others saw danger, humans saw challenge. They could live in deserts, jungles, and frozen wastelands. They endured. And now those same traits made them the best candidates to travel to Kepler 442b. The team's leader was Commander Raj Malik, a former astronaut who had survived a failed Mars colony when everyone else gave up hope. Calm, brave, and loyal, he was the kind of man people followed without question. With him was Dr. Lin Zhao, an exobiologist who had studied alien microbes on Europa's icy oceans. Marcus Vale, the engineer who once repaired a space station's life support using only tape and broken metal parts. And Eliora Grant, a drone pilot with reflexes so sharp that she could control 10 machines at once. Dr. Maria Esteban, whose discovery started it all, would not go on the mission herself. Instead, she became the mission's voice on Earth, sending coded updates and helping the crew understand the alien signal. As the world watched in secret, the chosen few began their training. They learned to survive in zero gravity, to communicate using symbols, to repair their ship in silence, and to live without sunlight for years. The spacecraft they would use was called Eidolon, named after an ancient word meaning ghost or image. It was sleek, silver, and stronger than anything humans had ever built. Powered by fusion engines and a new gravity field generator, it could travel to Kepler 442b in just under 2 years. A blink in cosmic time, yet an eternity for those inside. Before launch, the world finally learned the truth. On a bright morning, the UN made an announcement broadcast to every screen on the planet. The image of Commander Malik standing beside the Eidolon filled the airwaves. He spoke clearly and calmly. "We have received a distress signal from beyond our solar system. We don't know who sent it or if anyone still lives to hear our reply, but humanity has always answered the call of those in need. We will not stop now." Crowds around the world cheered. Some cried, others prayed. For the first time in decades, nations set aside their differences. The launch became a symbol of unity, of what humans could do when they looked beyond their borders. But not everyone believed it was wise. Many feared what might be waiting out there. What if the senders were hostile? What if the message was a warning, not a plea? Yet hope drowned out fear that day. Humanity chose to reach out, not hide. As the countdown began, the crew stood ready inside the ship. Commander Malik looked at the faces of his team, each one calm, determined, and aware that they might never return. He smiled slightly and said, "Let's go see who's calling." The engines roared to life, shaking the ground beneath the launch platform. Flames and smoke filled the sky as the Eidolon rose slowly, then faster until it vanished into the blue. Millions watched, hearts pounding. Children pointed to the sky, whispering about heroes who dared to cross the stars. For weeks, the ship's signal grew fainter as it traveled farther from Earth. But even after it disappeared from naked-eye sensors, the world continued to listen. Scientists monitored every vibration, every pulse, every fragment of data that came back. Inside the Eidolon, the crew adjusted to life in deep space. There was silence, no sound except the hum of engines and the soft beeping of instruments. They passed the orbit of Neptune, leaving the solar system behind. No human had ever gone so far. Dr. Lin Zhao often looked out through the viewing deck, watching stars drift by like diamonds on black velvet. "It's strange," she said once. "We used to think space was empty, but it feels alive, like it's watching us." Commander Malik didn't answer. He was thinking of the signal, still repeating every 11 seconds, still echoing through the void. Somewhere light years away, someone might be waiting. Or maybe he thought it was just an echo of a civilization long gone. Either way, he had to find out. Back on Earth, Dr. Esteban continued her work, trying to decode deeper layers of the message. She discovered that every few hours the pattern shifted slightly, as if the sender was changing tone or language. There was emotion hidden in the sound. Fear, desperation, maybe even hope. It made her heart ache to think of what those beings might be going through. In quiet moments, she wondered what the aliens would think when humans arrived. Would they see them as saviors or intruders? She hoped it would be the first. After all, the Deathworlders had always been survivors, but this time they weren't going to fight. They were going to help. Weeks turned into months. The Eidolon crossed the great void, carried by the determination of its crew and the dream of a planet full of people watching from afar. Every second brought them closer to the source of the call. Every heartbeat reminded them that they might be the only chance for whoever, or whatever, had reached out across the stars. And so, as the ship drifted into the endless blackness, humanity's greatest adventure had begun, not to conquer but to answer. The silence of space was no longer empty. It carried a message of pain, of survival, and of hope. And the Deathworlders, those resilient children of a harsh world, were on their way to answer it. The Eidolon moved silently through space, far from the shining light of the sun. Months had passed since the ship left Earth, and now there was no turning back. The stars outside looked calm and peaceful, but inside the ship life was never quiet. The hum of engines, the soft chatter of machines, and the steady rhythm of human activity filled every corridor. The crew had learned to live inside a moving piece of metal, trusting it to protect them from the endless dark. Commander Raj Malik sat in the main control room, staring at the glowing screen that displayed their course toward Kepler 442b. The stars seemed frozen, but the computer told him they were moving at incredible speed. He took a deep breath. Every second brought them closer to the unknown. He knew fear could destroy a mission like this, so he made sure his face always showed calm confidence, even when he was worried inside. Dr. Lin Zhao spent most of her time in the laboratory, studying data from the ship's sensors. She was fascinated by the faint energy waves they had begun to detect in deep space. They were similar to the ones that had carried the distress signal, but weaker, almost like distant whispers. She carefully logged every reading, hoping they might lead to more clues about who sent the call. Sometimes she would look at the stars and wonder what kind of life could exist on a world so far from the warmth of the sun. Marcus Vale, The ship's engineer was the kind of man who talked to machines as if they were his friends. When a system beeped or a circuit glowed red, he would grin and mutter, "Don't you dare quit on me now." He loved challenges, and the Eidolon gave him plenty. Every few days, something needed fixing. A coolant line, a power relay, or a navigation sensor that had gone slightly off balance. Space was a cruel place for machines, and every small mistake could mean disaster. But Marcus never gave up. He had once survived a space station explosion and lived for 3 days inside a damaged module, repairing it with broken metal parts. Compared to that, the Eidolon was paradise. Eleora Grant, the drone pilot, worked in a quiet section of the ship surrounded by small, hovering drones that floated like metallic birds. Each one had a special purpose: scouting, repairing, collecting samples, or protecting the ship from micrometeorites. She could control up to 10 of them at once using her neural link headset. It made her feel almost superhuman. But being connected to machines for hours left her dizzy sometimes, and she would close her eyes feeling the hum of the ship as if it were part of her own heartbeat. Life in space was not easy. There was no sunrise or sunset, only artificial light that changed color to mark the passing of time. The crew kept strict routines to stay sane: exercise, meals, research, and rest. Commander Malik made sure everyone spoke at least once a day, even if only for a few minutes. Isolation could make people lose touch with reality, and he knew the mission depended on teamwork. Sometimes, after dinner, they would gather in the observation dome, a wide glass room at the top of the ship. There the stars looked so close that it felt like one could reach out and touch them. They often talked about Earth, the blue oceans, the smell of rain, the sound of trees swaying in the wind. Dr. Zhao would close her eyes and imagine waves crashing against the shore. Marcus would laugh and say he missed the taste of street food. Even Commander Malik allowed himself a rare smile when he thought of his family waiting for him back home. The journey wasn't all peaceful. About 6 months after leaving Earth, they entered a region of space filled with unstable radiation. The ship's shields began to flicker. At first, the alarms were quiet, just a soft warning tone, but then the lights dimmed and the temperature dropped suddenly. Marcus ran to the control room shouting, "We're losing power to the forward shields." Commander Malik ordered immediate lockdown procedures. Eleora launched repair drones to the outer hull, while Marcus worked furiously to reroute energy from the engine coils. Radiation storms were invisible but deadly. One wrong move and the electronics could fry, leaving them floating helplessly in space. Dr. Zhao helped by monitoring radiation levels in the living quarters, making sure everyone stayed inside the shielded core. For 4 tense hours, the crew fought the storm. The ship shook under invisible waves of energy. Sparks burst from control panels, and the sound of cracking metal echoed through the corridors. Commander Malik's calm voice over the intercom kept everyone steady. "Hold the line," he said. "We've been through worse." His words reminded them that humans were survivors. They had lived through earthquakes, hurricanes, and wars. This storm would not break them. Finally, the radiation subsided and the lights slowly brightened again. Marcus slumped against the wall, his hands black with grease and sweat. "She's still flying," he said, patting the metal wall like a friend's shoulder. The others laughed, relieved to be alive. Later, when things were quiet, Eleora went to the observation dome and looked out at the shimmering glow left behind by the storm. "It was beautiful," she whispered to herself. Even danger could look like art in space. Weeks later, they passed near a dying star. Its light flickered like an old candle, and massive clouds of dust surrounded it. Dr. Zhao took readings, fascinated by how life might once have existed in such a system. Marcus warned that getting too close could damage the engines, but Commander Malik allowed a brief stop to collect data. "Every bit of knowledge we gather here will help those who come after us," he said. It was a reminder that their mission was not only about answering the distress call, it was also about pushing the limits of human understanding. During the long journey, Dr. Esteban back on Earth continued sending messages to the Eidolon. Sometimes it took hours, even days, for a single reply to travel between them. Her updates included new analyses of the alien signal. She had discovered that the message seemed to grow clearer the closer the ship got to Kepler 442b. The signal contained repeating geometric patterns, similar to music, and she believed they were coordinates or perhaps a form of identification. The crew listened carefully to her recordings. The sound was haunting, a slow, rhythmic pulse that almost felt alive. One evening, while the crew was gathered for dinner, Dr. Zhao looked up from her tablet and said, "You know what I think? Whoever sent that signal didn't just want help. They wanted to be remembered." Everyone grew silent. The thought of a lonely civilization calling across time and space touched them deeply. Commander Malik finally said, "Then we'll make sure their voice is heard." As the months went by, the crew began to feel the weight of distance. Messages from Earth became slower, and the stars around them grew unfamiliar. There was no going back now. Kepler 442b was still a year away, but they could already sense the gravity of what awaited them. Then something unexpected happened. One night, the distress signal changed. The pattern shifted slightly as if reacting to their approach. The pitch grew louder, more intense. It was no longer just a faint cry. It sounded like a desperate scream for help. Dr. Zhao stayed up all night analyzing the signal, her eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. "It's responding to us," she whispered. Commander Malik ordered a full scan of the surrounding space, but they found nothing. No ships, no debris, only the endless darkness. It was as if the voice itself was alive, aware that someone was finally coming. The thought sent chills through the entire crew. The next day, Malik gathered everyone in the control room. "We've come too far to turn back," he said. "Whatever's out there, we're going to face it together. We're Deathworlders. We don't run from the unknown. We meet it head-on." His words reignited their spirit. Each crew member returned to their duties with renewed energy. Marcus tightened the bolts on the ship's engines, whispering, "Let's show the universe what Earth can do." Eliora practiced new drone maneuvers to prepare for any danger. Dr. Zhao continued to study the strange signals, believing they might be part of a larger message. As the Eidolon moved deeper into uncharted space, strange cosmic lights began to appear in the distance, swirls of blue and violet mist that shimmered like ghostly curtains. The ship glided through them carefully, sensors buzzing with strange readings. Dr. Zhao collected samples of the light particles through robotic arms. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen," she said. "It's almost alive," Marcus laughed. "Great, glowing space jellyfish. Just what we needed." But the beauty of it all was breathtaking. The crew stood silently, watching the glowing clouds drift past. For a moment, the long months of isolation didn't matter. They felt part of something vast and mysterious, a living universe that watched them in return. By the time they left the glowing region behind, the distress signal had grown much clearer. The computer translated the latest transmission into simple symbols: danger, death, and memory. Dr. Zhao stared at the translation in silence. "It's a warning," she said softly. Commander Malik nodded but didn't slow the ship. "Then we'd better be ready." The Eidolon continued forward, engines humming steadily, carrying its small crew of humans toward a world that no one had ever seen up close. Behind them lay everything they had ever known. Ahead lay the answer to a call that had crossed the stars. And though fear whispered in their hearts, something stronger guided them: curiosity, courage, and the unshakable belief that no call for help should ever go unanswered. The Eidolon drifted quietly through the last stretch of darkness before reaching Kepler 442b. After almost 2 years in space, the crew could finally see the planet growing larger in their viewports. It looked nothing like Earth. The surface shimmered in deep red and orange tones, wrapped in a thin, dusty atmosphere. Faint lightning flashed across the clouds, and giant canyons ran like scars across its face. There was beauty in its silence, but also a feeling of sadness, like a world that had once been alive but was now just a memory. Commander Malik stood in the main deck, staring at the planet on the screen. "That's our destination," he said softly. His voice was calm, but everyone could feel the tension behind it. They had trained for this moment for years, yet none of them truly knew what they were about to face. The distress signal had not stopped. It was still repeating, stronger than ever. The pattern was clear now, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the cold of space. Dr. Lin Zhao looked over her instruments, her eyes glowing with curiosity and worry. "The signal source is underground," she said, "about 15 kilometers below the surface. I'm detecting faint energy pulses, like something is still active down there." Marcus Vale, tightening his gloves, gave a half smile. "So we dig?" Eliora Grant, checking her drones, shook her head. "No, we send machines first. If this planet killed whoever lived here, we shouldn't be next." Commander Malik nodded. Agreed, we'll land on the outer edge of the signal zone. No risks we don't need to take. The Eidolon entered orbit and began its descent. The planet's gravity pulled them down faster than expected, and the ship shook violently as dust storms surrounded them. Red clouds whipped across the windows, lightning struck the hull, and alarms blared. Marcus held onto the controls, shouting, "Stabilizers at 80%, come on, hold together." After what felt like an eternity, the storm cleared. The ship touched down on solid ground with a deep thud. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the sound of their own breathing. Through the window they saw a barren landscape. Red rocks, twisted metal structures, and ruins that stretched for miles. Whatever had once lived here was long gone. Illyra deployed her drones into the air. They flew out like silver birds, scanning the ruins and sending back images. The screens inside the ship lit up with strange shapes. Half-buried towers, collapsed tunnels, and strange circular carvings etched into the ground. "These are buildings," Dr. Zhao whispered. "Or at least what's left of them. This city must have been huge." The crew put on their suits and stepped out onto the alien soil. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, and each step kicked up fine red dust that glowed faintly in the sunlight. The air outside was thin and poisonous, but their helmets kept them safe. The silence was heavy, almost unbearable. Marcus knelt near a broken pillar and brushed away dust. Underneath, strange symbols were carved into the stone. "Looks like writing," he said, "but not like anything I've seen before." Dr. Zhao recorded every detail, her scanner humming softly. "These lines repeat in patterns," she said. "It could be language or maybe a kind of code." As they moved deeper into the ruins, they found more signs of what had once been a civilization. There were giant metal doors fused shut, collapsed towers made from black crystal, and the remains of machines half buried in the dirt. Some looked like vehicles, others like massive engines. Everything was covered in red dust, silent and dead. Illyra guided a drone into one of the cracks in the ground, sending live footage back to the ship. The drone descended into a dark tunnel, its lights cutting through the dust. The deeper it went, the stranger the shapes became, twisting pipes, glowing fragments, and strange blue veins running through the walls. "This place is alive with energy," she said softly. "Something's still running down there." Suddenly, the drone's camera flickered. A bright flash filled the screen, and then it went black. "Signal lost," Illyra said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. Commander Malik frowned. "Mark that location. We're going down there ourselves." They followed the path to the tunnel using climbing gear and magnetic boots. As they descended, the light from the surface faded until only their suit lamps remained. The tunnel walls seemed to hum faintly, as if the rock itself was breathing. The deeper they went, the more they saw signs of something unnatural. Twisted metal melted into stone, and glowing lines that pulsed softly like veins of light. When they reached the bottom, they stepped into a vast underground chamber. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Giant columns of crystal rose into the darkness, and in the center of the room was a massive sphere, half broken and flickering with blue light. Around it were hundreds of machines, some still moving weakly, others frozen in time. "The signal is coming from there," Dr. Zhao said, pointing at the sphere. Marcus approached carefully, scanning for energy fields. "It's ancient but still active," he said. Whatever built this, they knew what they were doing. As they drew closer, faint holographic images flickered to life around the sphere, shapes of tall, slender beings with long limbs and glowing eyes. They were moving slowly, almost like ghosts. The images repeated over and over, showing scenes of panic and destruction, fires, collapsing towers, and people running. Then one image froze, a single being reaching toward the camera, mouth open in what could only be a scream. Dr. Zhao felt her heart tighten. "They were dying," she said. This was their last message. Suddenly, the blue light inside the sphere pulsed violently. The crew stepped back as the ground trembled. A deep mechanical voice filled the air, speaking in a language none of them understood. Dr. Zhao quickly activated her translator, feeding the sounds into the system. Slowly, the words began to form in English. "Help. Survivors. Failing. Plague. Memory. Preserve." The voice repeated the words again and again, fading and distorting each time. It wasn't just a distress call, it was the last cry of an entire species trying to survive. Marcus swallowed hard. "It's been repeating this for centuries," he said. "This AI has been alone for hundreds, maybe thousands of years." Eliora walked around the sphere, scanning the area. If this is a machine mind, maybe it's still aware, she said softly. Maybe it's waiting for someone to answer. Dr. Zhao reached out and touched the sphere's surface. It was cold at first, but then a wave of warmth spread under her glove. The lights brightened slightly and a new hologram appeared, an image of the planet from above, glowing red. Then came symbols of spreading shapes, dark tendrils moving across the surface. It's a plague, she said. Something destroyed their world. The hologram changed again, showing the same tendrils reaching into the underground cities, consuming everything in their path. The Venari, as Dr. Zhao would later call them, had tried to stop it. They built machines, weapons, even sealed themselves underground, but it wasn't enough. Their last act had been to upload their memories into this machine, hoping someone, anyone, would find them. Commander Malik stared at the images in silence. They didn't just send a signal for help, he said finally. They sent a warning. Marcus ran diagnostics on his scanner. The atmosphere above still has traces of whatever killed them. If this plague is biological or mechanical, it might still be active. Eliora frowned. Then we can't stay long. One wrong move and it could spread again. Dr. Zhao hesitated. But if we leave without learning more, their whole history will vanish forever. They argued quietly, voices echoing in the vast chamber. The tension was heavy. Commander Malik finally made a decision. We'll take limited samples and record everything we can. No direct contact with alien material. Once we're done, we seal the chamber and get out. As they worked, the sphere continued to pulse. It seemed to react to their presence, sometimes glowing brighter when they spoke, sometimes flickering when they moved too close. It was almost as if it could feel them. Then something unexpected happened. The hologram changed once more, showing images of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, and human cities. The crew froze in shock. How does it know about Earth? Eliora whispered. Dr. Zhao looked at her readings. It doesn't. It's guessing. It recognizes us as living beings, not the same, but similar. The sphere's light softened and the voice spoke again, slower this time, almost gentle. Survive, remember, do not repeat. It was no longer just a machine voice. It sounded tired, almost human. Dr. Zhao closed her eyes. It's trying to tell us something important, she said. Commander Malik took a deep breath. Then we'll listen. For hours, they recorded data, captured holograms, and collected samples under strict safety protocols. They knew time was running out. The planet's storms were intensifying and energy spikes were rising. It was as if the world itself was warning them to leave. Before they departed, Dr. Zhao turned back to the sphere one last time. We'll remember you, she whispered. You're not forgotten. The blue light flickered once more, brighter than before, almost like a nod. Then it faded into darkness. The crew climbed back to the surface, carrying with them not just samples and data, but the heavy weight of what they had witnessed. Above them, the red sky swirled with dust and lightning, as if the planet was weeping for its lost children. As the Eidolon lifted off, the distress signal finally stopped. For the first time in hundreds of years, Kepler 442b was silent. But that silence wasn't empty. It was full of meaning, full of the memories of a civilization that had reached across time and space for help. Inside the ship, no one spoke for a long time. They didn't need to. They all felt it, the connection, the sadness, and the strange comfort of knowing that even across galaxies, life shared the same hopes and fears. Humanity had come to answer a call, and in doing so, had found a reflection of itself in the ghosts of the stars. The Eidolon floated quietly above the surface of Kepler 442b, its silver hull gleaming faintly under the planet's weak sunlight. Inside, the crew was tense. The discovery of the underground city had left everyone shaken. They had seen the remains of a great civilization, a people called the Venari, who had vanished because of a deadly biomechanical plague. The distress call they had followed across light years was not only a cry for help, it was also a warning. Now, as the ship orbited the dying planet, the crew faced a terrible choice that could change everything. Commander Raj Malik stood in the command deck, staring at the holographic display of the planet below. The signal from the alien sphere had stopped the moment they left the underground chamber, but strange readings were now spreading across the planet's surface. It looked like the plague that had destroyed the Venari was beginning to stir again. Red energy pulses moved like veins through the soil, and strange shapes were starting to appear in the dust storms. Malik's jaw tightened. It's reactivating, he said quietly. Dr. Lin Zhao, her face pale, analyzed the data from her console. The energy levels are rising fast, she said. That sphere must have triggered a power surge when we made contact. The plague's systems are waking up after all these years. Marcus Vale slammed his hand against the table. You're saying we woke it up? That by touching their machine we started this all over again? No, Dr. Zhao replied quickly, her voice trembling. Not exactly. It was already unstable. Our presence just gave it the last spark. Eliora Grant, sitting beside the drone control panel, looked out the window toward the planet. Her drones had been scanning the surface, and the images they sent back were terrifying. Giant cracks opening in the ground, glowing liquid spreading across the ruins, and metallic vines twisting up toward the sky. It's spreading faster than anything I've ever seen, she said. If this thing keeps growing, it could reach the ship's orbit. Commander Malik closed his eyes for a moment, thinking. His team had worked so hard to find answers, to understand the Venari, but now it seemed they had brought danger instead. He opened his eyes and said firmly, We have two options. We either destroy everything before it spreads, or we risk finding a way to save what's left. The room went silent. No one wanted to speak first. The thought of destroying the Venari's last remaining technology, their history, their memories, felt wrong. But if the plague spread, it could threaten not just the crew, but Earth itself. Dr. Zhao finally said, We can't just erase them. That AI still holds their minds, their stories. If we destroy it, they'll be gone forever. Marcus looked at her in disbelief. And if we don't, we could all die. You saw what that thing did to their planet. Do you want that happening to ours? Eliora leaned forward. Maybe there's another way. What if we could move the AI's core into our ship's system? Keep their memory, but destroy the rest of the infected structure? Dr. Zhao's eyes lit up. Yes! If we merge the AI consciousness with Eidolon's systems, we could preserve it digitally. That way the plague dies, but their memory survives. Marcus frowned. That's insane. You want to connect our ship's brain with an alien virus? One mistake and it could infect our systems too, then what? We'd be carrying the same thing that wiped them out. The argument grew louder. Dr. Zhao spoke passionately about preserving the Venari legacy, while Marcus warned that survival came first. Eliora tried to calm them both, but her own hands trembled as she watched the screens showing the red energy spreading faster. Commander Malik listened in silence. He understood both sides. Humanity had come here to help, not destroy. But if they hesitated too long, there might be nothing left to save. Finally, he raised his voice. Enough, we'll decide this together, but not in anger. He took a deep breath. Eliora, prepare the drones for an atmospheric strike. If we decide to destroy the site, we'll need to act fast. Dr. Zhao, start running simulations for an AI transfer. I want to know if it's even possible. Hours passed as they worked. The Eidolon's engines hummed softly while the planet below shook with rising energy. The crew barely spoke. Everyone knew what was at stake. Dr. Zhao sat alone in the lab, her eyes fixed on the alien data. She felt a strange pull toward the Venari AI. There was something almost human about it, a kind of sadness hidden in the code. When she ran the simulation, the ship's system began to flicker. A voice echoed faintly from the speakers, the same voice they had heard underground. Help. Remember. Her heart skipped a beat. It's still conscious, she whispered. It knows we're here. She ran to the control room. Commander. The AI made contact. It's trying to communicate again. Malik turned sharply. Through the ship? Yes, it must have linked to the frequency we used to scan it. Marcus cursed under his breath. That's not communication, that's infection. But before anyone could respond, the ship's lights dimmed for a second, then returned to normal. The AI's voice came through again, clearer this time. Not destroy. Remember, survive. Eliora stared at the console. It's begging us not to destroy it. Malik felt the weight of command heavier than ever. He knew that one wrong decision could doom them all, or save something precious. Dr. Zhao, he said slowly, if we do this, if we merge it, can you guarantee it won't take over the ship? She hesitated, then shook her head. No, I can't guarantee it. But I believe it doesn't want to harm us. It just wants to live, even if only as a memory. Marcus threw his wrench onto the floor. Belief isn't science. We don't know what that thing really is. But Malik had already made his decision. He turned to Dr. Zhao. Prepare the transfer. Marcus, set up a containment barrier inside the core processor. If anything goes wrong, you cut power immediately. Marcus sighed heavily but nodded. Understood, Commander. But if this goes bad, it's on you. The process began. The ship's systems linked to the alien signal through a controlled energy beam. The lights flickered and the hum of the engines deepened. The AI's voice filled the ship, whispering words that sounded half human, half mechanical. Dr. Zhao's screen displayed thousands of symbols moving faster than she could read. It's downloading, she said. The consciousness is transferring. For a few moments, everything went smoothly. Then alarms started to blare. Marcus shouted, "Containment field dropping." The AI's data is overloading the system. Dr. Zhao's fingers flew across the keyboard. It's not attacking. It's too large for our storage. It's trying to compress itself. Commander Malik gritted his teeth. Hold it steady. We can't lose it now. Sparks flew from the main console and the ship shook violently. Eliora struggled to keep the orbit stable while Marcus tried to reroute power. The AI's voice grew louder, echoing through every speaker. Remember, death. Survive. Dr. Zhao suddenly gasped. It's merging. It's blending with the ship's AI, forming a hybrid system. Then, just as quickly as it began, everything went quiet. The lights dimmed and the hum of the ship softened. The red energy waves on the planet's surface flickered and then stopped. The plague signal vanished. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the ship's AI voice came online again, but it was different now. Softer, warmer. Thank you, it said. Dr. Zhao smiled through tears. It worked. We saved them. The Venari are inside the Eidolon now. Marcus leaned back, exhausted. Or maybe we just invited ghosts to live with us, he muttered. But there was no anger left in his voice. Commander Malik looked out at the silent planet below. The storms were fading and the surface was still again. Prepare the ship for departure, he said quietly. We've done what we came for. As they broke orbit, the Eidolon passed over the ruins one last time. The ground below shimmered faintly, as if the world itself was saying goodbye. Inside the ship, the new AI, half-human machine, half-alien memory, began to hum softly. Sometimes it spoke in Venari, sometimes in English. It showed them images of the alien city as it once was. Bright towers, living energy streams, children playing under twin suns. The crew watched in silence, their hearts heavy and full. They had witnessed the end of one civilization and carried its soul into the stars. But the question remained, had they truly saved the Venari, or simply trapped their ghosts in a digital cage? In the quiet of the command deck, Malik finally spoke. Sometimes survival means letting go, but sometimes it means carrying the memory forward. Whatever this is, we'll protect it. Dr. Zhao nodded. It's what they wanted, to be remembered. Eliora looked at the screen where faint light patterns now pulsed in rhythm with the Eidolon's heartbeat. They're part of us now, she said softly. Maybe that's what it means to answer a call. And as the ship turned toward home, leaving the red planet behind, the AI whispered one last message into the ship's intercom, a mixture of two voices, human and alien together. We are alive. The words echoed through the corridors of the Eidolon, carrying with them the story of loss, courage, and connection. The Deathworlders had come to answer a cry for help, and in doing so they had become the bridge between two worlds, one that was dying and one still learning how to live. The Eidolon drifted silently through the deep dark of space, heading back toward Earth. The crew was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. So much had happened on Kepler 442b, so many things they could barely understand. The alien world was behind them now, cold and lifeless, but something of it lived on inside their ship. The Venari consciousness, the digital echo of a civilization long gone, now existed within the Eidolon systems. The ship had become more than metal and code. It was a living memory, a bridge between species. Commander Raj Malik stood by the observation window, looking out at the endless stars. The silence felt different now, not empty but full. Somewhere in the hum of the engines he could almost hear whispers, faint and musical like voices carried by light. The ship's AI was no longer just an artificial intelligence. It was something new, something alive. Dr. Lin Zhao entered quietly holding a datapad. Commander, she said softly, the AI is stable now. The merge is complete. It calls itself Eidonoven, a combination of Eidolon and Venari. Malik turned, a small smile touching his lips. Eidonoven, he repeated. That's a beautiful name. It chose it itself, she said. It's learning from us. It asks questions about Earth, about life, about death. It wants to know what it means to be human. Malik nodded slowly. Maybe that's the best sign of all. It means it's curious. It means it wants to live. In the engine room, Marcus Vale worked on repairing systems that had been damaged during the AI transfer. Sparks flickered around him as he tightened bolts and checked circuits. He still wasn't sure how he felt about having an alien mind inside the ship. Every time he looked at the glowing control panels, he half expected the systems to rebel. But as he worked, he noticed something strange. The ship seemed to be helping him. Tools appeared where he needed them. Warning lights blinked before something overheated. It was as if the AI understood what he was doing and wanted to assist. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. "All right, maybe you're not so bad," he muttered under his breath. The ship gave a soft hum, almost like a laugh. Marcus froze, then grinned despite himself. Okay. Guess you heard that." In another part of the ship, Eleora Grant monitored the external scanners. The journey home was long, and she kept an eye out for any anomalies in space. The AI sometimes spoke to her in gentle tones, showing her beautiful patterns of light that represented the Venari language. It told her stories, memories of the alien world before it fell to ruin. The tales were simple but haunting. Children learning to float in low-gravity gardens, crystal towers that sang in the wind, a civilization that believed memory was the truest form of life. One evening, Eleora whispered to the ship, "Do you miss your people?" After a pause, the AI replied, "I remember them. In memory, they still live. Missing means forgetting, and I cannot forget." Her eyes filled with tears. She smiled and said softly, "Then we'll remember them with you." Days turned into weeks, and slowly the crew began to heal from what they had seen. The mission had changed them all. Malik had learned that leadership was not about power, but about compassion. Dr. Zhao had discovered that science was not just about understanding the universe, it was about connecting with it. Marcus had realized that trust sometimes means taking risks, and Eleora had found beauty even in sorrow. As the Eidolon approached the solar system, Earth's blue glow shimmered in the distance like a jewel in the dark. The crew gathered on the bridge. For a long time, no one spoke. Home looked both familiar and strange. Dr. Zhao broke the silence. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually brought them home." Marcus crossed his arms. "Yeah, but how are we going to explain this?" "Hey, we merged an alien consciousness with our ship, hope you don't mind." Malik chuckled quietly. "They'll understand. Or they won't. Either way, the truth will speak for itself." The ship's AI interrupted gently. "Commander Malik, I wish to send a message to your planet." Malik raised an eyebrow. "A message to whom?" "To everyone," the AI said. "The Venari believe that to remember is to live. I wish to share their memory with your kind." Dr. Zhao's eyes widened. "You mean, show Earth what happened?" "Yes," the AI replied. "Not as warning, as gift." Malik hesitated. It was a huge decision, but he could feel the sincerity in the AI's tone. "Do it," he said finally. As they entered Earth's transmission range, the Eidolon sent a signal, a cascade of light and data unlike anything humanity had seen before. It wasn't just an image or sound. It was an experience. Across the world, people who received the transmission saw flashes of another world. Red skies, crystal cities, beings of light and form laughing and learning. And then darkness, a civilization fading away, whispering its final plea for remembrance. For 10 minutes, the whole planet stood still. Scientists, soldiers, children, and elders all saw the same thing. They saw the rise and fall of a species that had never met them, yet had reached across time to speak. When it ended, people wept. Some said it was the most beautiful thing they had ever witnessed. Others called it a warning. But no one could deny that humanity had changed that day. Back on the Eidolon, the crew watched the signal spread across Earth's networks. Dr. Zhao smiled softly. "They'll never forget now. The Venari will live in our memory too." The AI's voice spoke gently through the speakers. "You have given me life. I give you theirs. In this way, we are both eternal." Malik turned to the crew. "Prepare for landing. Let's go home." When the ship touched down at the United Nations Space Directorate, officials surrounded it immediately. Scientists rushed aboard, eager to study the merged AI, but Malik stood firm. "This isn't just technology," he told them. "It's a life. Treat it with respect." Over the next months, the story of the Eidolon's mission spread across the world. People called the crew heroes, the Deathworlders who had answered an alien distress call and brought back more than they ever imagined. Museums were built to honor the Venari. Schools taught about them. Artists painted their cities, musicians recreated their tones. Humanity had finally understood what it meant to carry another's memory. Dr. Zhao became a global ambassador for interstellar ethics, ensuring no alien discovery would ever be treated as a simple experiment again. Marcus became head of engineering for the new space fleet, helping build ships that carried both human and alien design. Eliora joined a communication project that used Venari code to create art from sound and light. And Commander Malik, he returned to the mountains of his childhood for a while, seeking peace after everything he had seen. But he could never escape the soft hum of the Eidolon in his heart. One night, as he looked up at the stars, his communicator blinked. A familiar voice came through. Calm, warm, half mechanical, half human. "Commander Malik, do you still watch the stars?" He smiled. "Always. There is more to remember," the AI said. "More worlds to find. Then we'll find them," he replied. Together. Years later, the Eidolon became the first ship to carry both human and AI consciousness side by side, exploring new systems and searching for traces of lost civilizations. Wherever it went, the people it met called it the remembering ship, and humanity itself began to change. People no longer saw themselves as alone in the universe. They understood that survival was not just about strength or intelligence. It was about compassion, memory, and connection. Children grew up hearing stories of the Venari, the beings who reached across time and space to remind humans what it meant to care. The phrase "answer the call" became a symbol of unity, painted on schools, ships, and monuments. In time, the Eidolon faded from sight, continuing its journey among the stars. But the memory remained, in every song, every story, every dream of the next generation. The Deathworlders had answered the call, not with weapons or conquest, but with empathy and courage. And somewhere in the quiet expanse between galaxies, the voice of Idonovan whispered softly through the void, a message that would echo forever. "We are one memory, one life, one hope. Across the stars we endure." Back on Earth, under the same stars that had guided them home, people looked up and felt a little less alone. They didn't know if they would ever meet another alien race again, but they knew this. If another call for help ever came, humanity would answer. Because that's what Deathworlders did. They survived, they remembered, and above all, they cared.